Have you ever really wondered what's going on inside your body when you fast? Not just that you feel hungry, but what's happening on a molecular level. Well, today we're going to dive deep into our own biology, using our source material as a guide to really explore the powerful changes that Islamic fasting is said to unlock. So let's start with a problem that's, well, pretty modern. The material we're looking at today argues that our way of life, constant eating, snacking, grazing, it keeps our bodies in a state of what it calls chronic nutritional toxicity. Basically, our systems just never get a chance to take a break. So that begs the question, right? What if there was a way to hit a biological reset button, a way to bring our body's natural balance back from the inside out? And this is where we need to completely reframe how we think about this. The argument here isn't that fasting is just about, starving yourself. No, it's about something way more profound. It's a trigger for a deep genetic and hormonal reprogramming. All right, so first up, let's talk about our hormones. Our source describes fasting as a maestro that basically steps onto the stage to retune the body's entire hormone orchestra. Let's dig into what that actually means. So the first instrument in that orchestra? Insulin. See, when we're eating all the time, our cells get bombarded with insulin, and they can start to ignore its signal. That's insulin resistance. Fasting gives them a much-needed break. Insulin levels drop to their baseline, which lets our cell receptors kind of rest and become sensitive again. And a great side effect of that? It helps the body start burning through that really stubborn visceral fat. Okay, next up is human growth hormone, or HGH. And this is where things get absolutely wild. According to studies mentioned in our source, fasting can cause HGH levels to just surge by up to 2,000%. That's not a typo. 2,000%. So what does a surge like that even do? Well, it's not just some number on a chart. This huge HGH increase actually works to protect your muscles from breaking down. It helps repair skin, it stimulates collagen, strengthens your tendons. The source basically calls it a recipe for biological youth. Now, we've looked at the big picture system. Let's zoom way, way in, right down into the cell itself. We're going to talk about a process that is basically the body's internal microscopic cleanup crew. And that process is called autophagy, which literally translates to self-eating. It's a huge deal in biology. It even won a Nobel Prize. And it's just the body's brilliant natural way of cleaning house. Getting rid of all the damaged, junked up cell parts and recycling them into new, useful components. So how does this get switched on? Well, when you fast, the energy currency in your cells, something called ATP, it naturally starts to drop. This flips a master switch, activating an enzyme called AMPK. You can think of AMPK as the foreman of the cleanup crew. It yells, all right, stop all the expensive projects like storing fat. It's time to start recycling. Now think about what that means for our most critical organ, the brain. The source material has this great metaphor. It calls autophagy a microscopic vacuum cleaner, sucking up all the toxic protein gunk, things like amyloid beta and tau that are linked to neurodegenerative diseases. Now, here's where the source makes a really interesting distinction between a water fast and the dry fasting that's part of Islamic practice. It suggests that by not taking in water, your body is forced to make its own metabolic water, and it does that by breaking down fat cells. The theory presented is that this process gets at toxins stored really deep in that fat, making detoxification up to 3 times faster. Let's stick with the brain for a minute, because it's not just about cleaning house. Fasting actually changes the fuel the brain runs on, and that leads to some pretty incredible results. So after about 12 hours without food, this big metabolic switch gets flipped. The liver starts turning fat into a totally different energy source for the brain. It stops running on sugar, glucose, and starts burning a high-octane superfuel called ketones. And wow, ketones are incredible for the brain. They give you more energy molecule for molecule than glucose. They also act like little signaling molecules that tell the brain to turn down inflammation. This is why so many people report that brain fog just evaporates during a fast, and it's replaced with this intense focus and mental clarity. But wait, it gets even better. Fasting also ramps up the production of this powerful protein called BDNF. The best way to think about BDNF is like fertilizer for your brain. Its main job is to help you grow brand new nerve cells, especially in the hippocampus, which is the memory and learning center of your brain. So you put all that together, right? You've got the cleaning power of autophagy, the superfuel of ketones, and the brain-building power of BDNF.
You arrive at this really striking conclusion from the source. Fasting literally makes your brain bigger and smarter. For our final stop, we are going as deep as we possibly can, all the way inside the nucleus of the cell, to look at how fasting affects our actual DNA. And here, we meet these incredible genes called sirtuins. Scientists call them survival genes for a reason. They only really switch on when the body's under a bit of stress, like when you're not eating. Most of the time they're silent, but they wake up when the body needs to protect itself. And their job is absolutely critical. Sirtuins are like a DNA repair crew, patching up breaks in our genetic code. They also protect our telomeres. Think of telomeres like those little plastic caps on the end of your shoelaces, but for your chromosomes. By keeping those caps from fraying, they are essentially slowing down the aging process right at the cellular level. So let's just put it all together. We've seen how fasting can reset our entire endocrine system, kickstart cellular cleanup with autophagy, switch the brain over to a superfuel, and even trigger DNA repair. It's really a top-to-bottom biological overhaul. And it all comes down to this one really powerful metaphor from our source. Fasting is the button you can press to return your body to its original factory settings. Clean, efficient, and strong. It's just a fascinating way to look at an ancient practice through a very modern molecular lens. And it kind of leaves you with this final question to chew on. What other ancient secrets are just sitting there, waiting for us, hidden deep inside our own biology?